Religion and Poetry of Sylvia Plath.
And then, of course, when he died, I had to tell the children in the morning that their father had died, that he wasn't suffering anymore. While Warren rejoiced that I was young and healthy and clung to me, Sylvia just slipped underneath the covers of her bed and said, "I'll never speak to God again," for she had been praying every night that her father would be well and would come home.
The grasses unload their griefs on my feet as if I were God, prickling my ankles and murmuring of their humility.
Marble heavy, a bag full of God.
Oh, Father, all by yourself.
Twice on Sunday, the bells startle the sky. 8 great tongues affirming the resurrection.
Who do you think you are? A communion wafer? Blubbery Mary? I shall take no bite of your body. God's lioness, how one we grow.
It is like possessing a saint.
But my God, my God, my God.
Young Sylvia's promise was kept for the rest of her life. Her relationship with God was permanently fractured. As Plath transitioned into her teens, she became a leader at the local Unitarian church. One of the reasons Plath valued the church was that it provided her with a set of moral and social beliefs that she was able to hold without also believing in the supernatural existence of God. Plath lived her life a firm atheist, but her disbelief in God did not keep her from filling pages of poetry and prose with his name. While speaking of her beliefs, Plath once said, "Like a certain sort of atheist, my poems are God-obsessed, priest-obsessed, full of Marys, Christs, and nuns." She spent her days toying with the idea of religion, praying that she could allow herself to give in to the simplicity of believing and trusting in a God. Plath's poetry exemplifies her fascination with religion, namely Christianity. Whether hidden or in plain sight, the majority of Plath's poetry contains some allusion to God or some other religious figure. Writers are told to write what they know, and Sylvia did, and she knew Christianity better than any practicing Christian out there.
Mule bray, pig grunt, and bawdy cackles proceed from your great lips. It's worse than a barnyard. Perhaps you consider yourself an oracle, mouthpiece of the dead, or of some god or other. 30 years now I have labored to dredge the silt from your throat. I am none the wiser. I would repeat it to the operator. An incantation, a fine rhyme.
The moon has nothing to be sad about, staring from her hood of bone. She is used to this sort of thing. Her blacks crackle and drag. Fumy, spiritus mists inhabit this place. Separate.
One of Sylvia Plath's quasi-religious endeavors that left a lasting impact on her life was her experimentation with the occult. Growing up, she was fascinated with astrology, tarot cards, and crystal gazing. Shortly into her marriage with Ted Hughes, he introduced her to the Ouija board. While Hughes simply regarded the board as a fun writing exercise, Plath grew deeply attached to the Ouija board and treated their seances with grim seriousness as spiritual rituals. Mystic symbolism was very common in Plath's poetry, the two most common symbols being the moon and the spirits. During her Ouija sessions, Plath often spoke with a spirit guide named Pan and Pan's family god, Colossus. References to these spirits of the Ouija board can be found in her poems Ouija, Dialogue Over a Ouija Board, The Colossus, the short story Johnny Panic in the Bible of Dreams, and many other works.
Inside the church, the saints will be all blue, floating on their delicate feet over the cold pews, their hands and faces stiff with holiness. The moon sees nothing of this. She is bald and wild. and the message of the yew tree is blackness. Blackness and silence.
Not God, but a swastika, so black no sky could squeak through.
The moon is my mother. She is not sweet like Mary.
In her journals, Plath once referred to her time, the postmodern generation, as the last phase of Christian civilization. She believed strongly that more and more minds were straying from Christianity, and that the Christian god's influence on the populace was rapidly diminishing. In Greek mythology, the death of the great god Pan symbolized the advent of Christianity. It only made sense that Sylvia's spirit guide Pan, along with the resurrection of occultism, should symbolize Christianity's end. Plath's work that most explicitly voices her opinions on Christianity versus the spirits of the Ouija board is Dialogue Over a Ouija Board, a verse dialogue. The verse dialogue mimics a conversation between Plath and Hughes during one of their seances and takes the reader on a journey through their subconscious. First, the couple runs into two minor imps who are implied to represent the Christian god and devil, and immediately the couple feels that they are wasting their time. The rest of the verse dialogue is spent interacting with Pan, the spirit of the Ouija board, and sends a very clear message about Sylvia's distaste for Christianity. Although they may not be as explicit, many of Plath's poems serve as a medium for her religious exploration. She uses poetry to discuss things she doesn't know how to say out loud and to fuel her complexity of a spiritual journey.